A lot has happened since we met last year and talked about the problems with conservatorships. Legislation has been passed to define supported decision-making in the law so people can receive the support they need without involving the courts. Next of kin law was also passed, which allows physicians to select a supporter to make decisions for a patient if they have not and cannot do so themselves. Our next speakers have been at the forefront of this movement to enable people with disabilities to direct their own lives with the support that they choose. Zoe Brennan Krohn is a staff attorney at the Disability Rights Program of the American Civil Liberties Union, and Marie Bergum is an advocate who helped pass a new law in San Francisco that recognizes supported decision-making and makes it easier for people to end their conservatorships. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Zoe Brennan Krohn, and Marie is here with me. Do you want to turn your camera on, Marie?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
So as Clarissa said, I'm a lawyer at the ACLU Disability Rights Program, and I'm based in San Francisco, and Marie is one of my clients and one of my friends, and Marie worked incredibly hard to get out of her own conservatorship and uses supported decision-making and has been a vocal advocate for this new law, AB 1663, and recognizing supported decision-making. So I want to go through a little bit of the basics of supported decision-making. I have a brief PowerPoint, and in the middle of that, I'm going to show a video of a conversation that Marie and I had about her use of supported decision-making. So we'll switch to that and then end with a brief conversation about what healthcare professionals need to know about this new law and what the best practices are. So briefly, supported decision-making is simply choosing supporters to help a person make and understand and communicate their own choices. It's something that everyone does in all of our lives, and we have all been doing it forever. When you get call someone up to talk about a tricky relationship you're in, and you talk to your friend about it, and they help you think it through, that's supported decision-making. Your friend doesn't tell you whether you break up with the guy or not, but they help you think about it. And it is something that people with disabilities do just as much as people without disabilities. One of the reasons supported decision-making is so important is because there's a real double standard in our society where people, Tim Jin is in this session right now, and he's in this picture, which I didn't share with him, but I hope he's okay with it. That there's a real double standard that people without disabilities or people who aren't perceived as having disabilities are treated as really smart when they ask for help. If I go to a doctor's office with some sort of serious diagnosis and I bring a friend with me to help me take notes and make sure I understand everything, and I'm not perceived as being disabled, everyone would say that's a really good choice. And if someone with a disability does exactly the same thing, then people will say, well, that's because you don't have capacity. It's because you can't do anything. And that double standard is completely unfair. So one of the core concepts of supported decision-making is rethinking the notion of capacity. So, from a legal point of view, capacity refers to the ability to make choices and to be responsible for your own decisions and acts. But very often in the law, and sometimes in healthcare settings, capacity is viewed as something all or nothing. You have it or you don't have it. And really, all of us have capacity in some areas and lack capacity in other areas. I'm a lawyer. I can do lots of things. If you handed me your medical professionals, if you handed me the kinds of things you're doing or the documents you're looking through every day, sitting here today, I don't have capacity to understand those. I could get capacity if I studied, if you explained them to me, but I don't have that capacity right now. And so capacity is something that depends on the context, that fluctuates over time. People might have more capacity in some circumstances than in others for some decisions, and people's capacity can change and can be strengthened. And that is really what supported decision-making is. It's a way to strengthen people's capacity. So the way I like to think about it is the kind of desert island concept and moving away from that. That too often people with disabilities are assessed, their capacity is assessed based on what they could do if they were alone on a desert island. And you take someone into a room and do an IQ test, and then that's what they can do. But in fact, we don't live on desert islands. We don't want to live on desert islands. That's not how we connect with people. And so supported decision-making lets us and encourages us all to think about what each of us can achieve with help, with guidance, with support, with technology, with practice, to really think of capacity as something that can be strengthened and should be strengthened. So I'm going to switch now to the video of a conversation with me and Marie. It's about 11 minutes. And one thing I'm going to ask you to think about as you watch the video is to think about all of the different ways that Marie is describing using supported decision-making in her life. And there's technology, there's friends, there's apps, there's classes. So there's just like a wide range of ways that in our conversation, Marie, that you were describing supported decision-making. Marie, do you have anything to add before I show the video?
Well, I'm just really glad to be here with you and be on this to tell everyone about decision making.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, here is the video. Tell me a little bit about your background. What was it like when you were in a conservatorship, and what are things like now?
When I was in the conservatorship, I could not do college. I couldn't do, well, my dad, said that, well, I needed help. I had a disability, so he said I had more disability than my brothers. So he favored them over me. Because I, like, when I went to do sports, it was different. He didn't hold me of it. I guess sports was different. But like church, that's freedom of religion. Like he would say, "Oh, you have to stand up," and I'm like, "No, I don't have to stand up. If my foot hurts, I can sit down." So, but like something like that. But like, if my dad would be following me, like if I was on the phone, like he would take my phone away, and that wasn't right because the judge said you had to give me my phone back, and he told him, he's like, "You can't be taking her phone away." Alicia Gomez was trying to get a hold of her and finding out about the court meeting. Who else? Like everyone was trying to get a hold of me. My aunt, everyone was trying to get a hold of me. They couldn't because my dad was keeping my phone.
And your dad was your conservator, right?
Yep.
And why do you think he treated you that way?
Because I have a disability.
And how did you get out of your conservatorship?
I got out of my conservatorship because I had my supportive team, like Nancy Bergum and Alicia and Eric. They were all supporting me. Lisa, my cousin, Lisa Carr, my my attorney, Zoe, Jonathan was a good part.
Uh-huh.
He actually talked my dad out of it pretty good. So he got him really good.
And what is this new law, AB 1663?
It helps people with disabilities. It doesn't have to be conserved no longer. And like to explain what it is, they don't have to be a limited conservatorship. It was a limited conservatorship. Like the type of disability I have is a learning intelligence disorder, like a learning disability.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what they said.
Yeah. So what does that mean for you?
Hard at learning.
And can you learn still?
Yes.
And is that something people don't know? Like, I don't know. Do people underestimate you sometimes?
Yes, they do.
Because my experience. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a hard time of reading. Like I can't pronounce stuff right.
Mhm. And do you have tools and ways to help you get information?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do?
I use my tablet
Uh-huh.
to read it. So I have a computer at school, so I use that, but then I use my tablet, and my teacher's like, he goes behind me, he's like, oh, you're using your device. I'm like, yep, just like my friend. My advocate's daughter and her sons use their computer for devices. I do it too.
And how does it help you? How does your tablet help you with reading?
It helps me to understand what it's saying, because I can't pronounce it. I can't comprehend it. I
Uh-huh.
wish I could.
Have you, for you, do you think that having the chance to make your own decisions, have you gotten better at it over time?
Yeah. Yes, I do, but I just need a supporter to talk to them to make sure I make the correct decision
Uh-huh.
before I make it.
And with supported decision making, are you the person who makes the decision, or does your supporter make the decision?
No, they make the decision with me. They can't talk with somebody else without my consent.
And what if you disagreed with a supporter?
It's okay to disagree, but they can't talk without you.
And can they make a decision instead of
No.
you?
No.
And that's a big difference from conservatorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did it go in the conservatorship if you disagreed with your dad?
He would just make the decision. He wouldn't tell me.
Right. And
He thought he's like, oh, I'm on your team, and I'm like, I don't think so. I told Nancy, and Nancy's like, not hardly. You're making the decisions for her.
And how did it feel to you when he made decisions for you?
It made me feel like I was not smart. I was just, he didn't think of me at that hard. He didn't take the chance to think about me. He was just thinking about himself, you know?
Yeah.
But when I wanted help with my bank, the same thing, he just went ahead and just took the money and just ran. Because I had to pay all that money back, and I did it this year. So
Wow, good for you.
I'm all done paying it off. I have my own Social Security now and my own bank now.
Yeah, it seems like one of the things with your conservators is that or your dad would act like if you didn't know how to do something, he'd act like you would never be able to learn instead of explaining to you how to do things, right?
No, this year I got checked off. The only thing I didn't get, well, there's a few things I didn't get checked off. I'm on level 3. But
what does that mean?
That means well, for TIM, I'm really good. I am passing all of my classes that my dad said I couldn't. But I'm getting there. I feel like I'm not ready to leave yet, but I'm going to get there. And they said, no matter what, if I get all my classes passed up, if I still want to learn and I still want to train her, I can still be here.
That's great. And what are some of the things that you've learned?
I am learning to budget, and Caitlin's extremely proud of me, and I have not had any problems. I always ask her, I always text her how much I have. I always say, I'm not sure I have enough. Could you know, I want to make sure I have enough. I don't want to go over in my bank. I don't want to draw too much.
That's
Yeah.
hard. A lot of people have have a really hard time with that.
Yeah, well, I got to be careful right now because I'm the end of the month, but
Yep.
I went to McDonald's, so I got my coffee free. I used my points.
Oh,
I got my points and I got my coffee free, but I got my sandwiches. I still had baked.
right.
So I used my points. I'm like,
That's very
"Ooh."
smart. How did you learn about that?
So my friend teaches me.
And what about for doctors or nurses if somebody comes into their office and has some sort of disability, an intellectual disability, say, what advice do you have for them about how to treat that person?
Treat them how you want to be treated. If they want help, if they're asking for help, please help them. But the office, when I ask for help, they sometimes, like the dentist, they throw me away. They say, oh, you have to do it yourself. And it was hard for me. I could not read. What if a person can't read? What if they can't speak? What if they're speaking through their device? What are they gonna do? They don't have the resources to help them. What if they have to sign? What if they don't understand?
So what were you trying to do at the dentist's office?
What I was trying to do at the dentist's office one time, I was trying to fill out a form, and it was a whole big, huge packet. It was 2 packets put together. 2 packets. Huge ones. And I'm like, I don't have my staff there. I was there with my friend, and my friend was doing her own packet. So she couldn't help me. She tried, but she didn't want to mess up. So she's like, Marie, do the best you can. And I'm like, oh, shoot. And I told the doctor, I said, I have to bring this to my support person, Alicia Gomez, because she has to help me.
And you said, like, if the doctor says something that the patient, the person doesn't understand, what are some things they should do?
They
The doctor
should
should
put it,
do.
well, they should put it in another form that they understand. Like maybe, I think the doctor should have like pictures, like if they have a disability and they can't understand, if the person's not be able to speak, they're gonna have to use pictures.
Yeah.
But I don't see that. I don't see it. So it's gonna have to be something new
Right.
in the law. It's gonna have to be something new in the law because it's not yet.
And what about just using more like simple words? Does that help you sometimes?
Yeah, simple words maybe. And I miss Caitlin so much because it's like she would put it in a format that I would understand.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Marie, for being the star of
Thank
that
you.
conversation. One of the things I love about that conversation is how many different examples of supported decision-making you have, like talking about using your tablet to read words to you. That's a way to support you in your reading. Asking for things in simple language or in pictures, that's a kind of supported decision-making. Having your friend teach you about how to get free coffee with McDonald's points, that's a kind of supported decision-making. There are lots of kinds of supported decision-making. So I want to talk very briefly about the new law in California that Marie and I worked to get passed with many, many other people, some of whom are here today. and talk about how that affects healthcare professionals in particular. So this is going to be very high level because we don't have a lot of time and it's a whole law. But the bill went into effect January 1st, 2023. And this is the first law in California that expressly recognizes supported decision-making as a way that people with disabilities can get support to make their own choices. The law is specific to sort of formal supported decision-making agreements, but there are also lots of informal ways that are still part of, still valid, even though they're not formally discussed in the law. It can be used by people with any kind of disability, intellectual and developmental disabilities, but also people with age-related disabilities. It's not specific to a certain subset of folks with disabilities. So this is our friend Judy Mark's son is in this picture, which is a stage, it's a staged picture, but it's the real doctor. And so some of the ways that supported decision-making comes out in healthcare decisions is around support understanding health information, communicating with providers, managing daily health needs. I was watching Dan and Samuel's great presentation before ours, and that was a lot of what Dan was describing in the Q&A about managing medical, the logistics and the needs and medical care matters. So supporters can help a person access healthcare, understand medical information, and make medical decisions. So I want to talk about like 4 very specific things. And I'm sorry, there's a question in the chat about the slides. And yes, I will make sure these are available after this. And it was my error, not UCSF's, that they're not up yet. But so parts of the law that are, I think, particularly relevant to healthcare providers. The first is the presumption of competence. This isn't new, but it reiterates that adults with disabilities are presumed to be competent. And then the second point is about the desert island concept and saying, no, that's not how we think about capacity. The capacity of an adult should be assessed with supports, and with supports that the person could use. So there are lots of people with disabilities and without disabilities who are quite isolated, who might not have found the supports that work for them yet, but that shouldn't be held against them. Then the law says that an adult with a disability can enter into a supported decision-making agreement, and that's where you choose supporters, people you trust, to help you make your own choices. And it can, in the supported decision-making agreements and in the law, you can lay out really specifically how the person with disabilities chooses for that support to be. So you might choose someone to help you make medical choices. You, for example, Marie, you still make your own medical choices, but you have supporters help you make them. And
yes, I have you guys help me so I can understand the medical decisions.
yeah, exactly. And you have also some of the same, like you have some people help you more with some decisions than others, right? Like I help you more with legal stuff because I'm a lawyer, and your aunt is somebody's a nurse, aren't they?
I think so. Oh, well, that's on my other side.
Oh, you're right. But yeah, you have people help you sort of based on what they know how to do, what they're good at. You don't have every single supporter come in every time, but you sort of choose who you want to help you.
I have a lot of people.
You do, yes. And then the other thing that I think is important in the law for healthcare providers to know is that sort of actually apart from formal supported decision-making, people with disabilities and without are entitled to have people they want with them present in meetings. And that includes specifically in the law, meetings with healthcare providers. And the threshold for that is pretty low. So the bill says that a person can indicate that they want someone to be part of a meeting through saying so verbally, through gesture, through augmentative or alternative communication. The idea being that that shouldn't be some complicated kind of rigmarole process to have someone in the room with you. So that can be along with supported decision-making or apart from it. And then I think there's, so sort of bringing this together, I think there's 3 types of things that are really valuable for healthcare providers and professionals to do to support supported decision-making and to support patients with disabilities. And so the first is what Marie was describing at the end of the video, of working to strengthen your patient's capacity and their ability to participate in medical encounters by doing things like explaining things in simple words, using pictures, exactly like Marie said, using examples. Repetition is important often, slowing the process down so it's not super intimidating, helping people with forms. That was another example you gave, Marie, about the dentist's office,
Yeah,
getting all these like documents.
I have another one.
Yeah.
Well, I would say like, when with their medical, some people, I didn't have medical when I was in the facility. So it would be good sometimes if people don't have medical, like I had to leave my dad and go to go to this program. And I only had a couple weeks. I didn't set up for that. So I fell and then I didn't have no Medicare. I got it after because I had help, but
But you
it would
weren't
be
already
good if-
signed, like you
yeah.
didn't have providers all set, right? 'Cause
No.
you just moved when you fell and hurt your ankle, right?
Yeah, they switched it. I guess they must have switched it when I moved away.
And yeah, and that's exactly something that people want and need support in getting set up because it's really complicated. And then the second thing I recommend for healthcare providers to do is respecting and encouraging patients who use supported decision-making formally and informally. So if someone comes into your office and shows you a supported decision-making agreement, you should respect that. But not everyone's going to call it that or know that term. And so there's a broader concept of taking seriously the ways that the things that work, that the person comes in and they, finding out what works and supporting that. And then the third thing is telling patients about supported decision-making as an alternative to conservatorship, or guardianship is the term used for folks outside of California. Medical providers are actually one of the big sources of conservatorship, one of the big referral sources. Schools are the #1 way that people that families get directed into getting conservatorship for young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but doctors are right behind them, and medical providers. So if you have patients whose families are saying, we're not sure, our kid is turning 18, what should we do? You don't have to know all of the information about it, but there's lots of information online, there's resources that exist, people who can support them. So just telling them, there's this other thing. There's also supported decision-making. You might want to think about that and not leap right into conservatorship. I think all 3 of those things would make a really big difference in how the experience of and the rights of people with disabilities in your practices are. So with that, I'm going to stop, and Marie and I are happy to answer any questions any of you have.
Thank you so much. That was very informative. We do have some questions. One question is, what about children or adults with mild intellectual disability? Is there a concern about ability to navigate busy roads or traffic in a major city, or that someone who's aggressive with them with road rage? Is there, how would supported decision-making work for somebody who needs that kind of help?
I would say it's practice. And Marie, you're getting support in learning
Yeah.
to take the city buses. How is that going for
Yeah.
you?
well, I live in independent living with the ARC. Well, you know, and then they do cleaning. They teach you all the skills like budgeting, um, like how to clean your house, how to cook, how to, you know, do all those, going to the mail place, knowing where the mail place is and all that. Like
And didn't
everything.
you have a situation where you had some difficulties on a bus and you called Nancy
Yes.
to ask her, one of your supporters, to ask her for help in how to
Yeah.
manage a situation with someone kind of difficult on the bus, right?
Yeah, I had to take pictures to show her where I was, and she had to tell me where to go.
Yeah, so I think it's, you know, a lot of it is practice and, you know, getting used to life as an adult, which is something everyone has to get used to. Like most of us, when we were 18, didn't have all of the skills or tools or common sense or whatever we think of now. And so making sure that people with disabilities too have opportunities and this idea of the dignity of risk, a chance to learn, to make mistakes in a way that's safe, and then you can learn from those mistakes and move on. So it's a process. It's not a one-off, one-time thing.
So what I'm hearing you say and what I'm hearing you describe, Marie, that is that just because you don't have a conservator doesn't mean you don't need support, and that
Yes.
and that you're still
You still
accessing
need
support
no
and
matter
still
what,
getting
you don't have a
support.
conservator, because you have to learn. There's a process of learning, step by step learning, and there's still learning to go on to life. Is that understanding?
Yeah. So what would happen, Marie, if you wanted to do something like, let's say there was somebody who wanted a driver who said, I want a driver's license, and
Oh, yeah.
they didn't have
I
the ability to do that, then
well,
what would you do?
I would, you know, I would ask my team is Porter, maybe ask somebody that has more resources, maybe like Suzanne or Zoe, maybe somebody like that, and knows more resources, like Jonathan. Maybe they might know more resources for me to learn better with somebody. Maybe there's another coach just for that I can, you know, learn.
Okay. And sometimes people learn their limitations when you know, your father was telling you that you couldn't do things that you proved you could do, but have you ever tried something that you thought you could do that you're like, maybe I was too ambitious there. I tried too hard, or, you know, that's something I'm not ready
No,
for yet. No, that's
no,
never happened to you.
never.
Okay.
I actually got my diploma from high school and my certificate, so I got two, and I graduated. My dad never thought I was going to graduate. I walked down to the graduation, like both, and he was like, "Wow," it was like, "I can't believe she's graduated." And it was really hard. My teachers had to help me. Not like my dad was too busy with his life, so I had my life. So, and my brothers, they tried to help, but I had to do it all with my teachers. So, and I'm doing college right now. So,
Good for you. I know with my daughter, I've thought that there was something that maybe she wasn't ready for, that she thought she was ready for, and she insisted, so I let her try it, and that was very helpful for our relationship, because she's like, oh yeah, you were right. If that hasn't happened to you.
that's
Um,
really good. You let her try that. That's good.
There's another question. Can you comment on the implications of encounters with the law for individuals who aren't conserved? Would it change how one is prosecuted or held accountable for criminal action?
So it is not a defense to criminal liability to be in a conservatorship. And I think this is part of a more general misconception people have about conservatorships as being really protective. And in fact, they aren't, and they can make things more complicated in a lot of cases. You know, a conservatorship it's a piece of paper. It's certainly not something that protects people against bad people in the world. Like it's not a force field of protection. I think we'd all be thinking about it very differently if it were a magic force field, but that's not what it is. I think in terms of a criminal prosecution, the fact of a disability can be taken into account in some cases as a mitigating circumstance, but you know, plus or minus the conservatorship is not going to make or break something. It's not like you could have someone who was arrested for something and then you pull out the conservatorship papers and then the case disappears. Like you're in a complicated situation if that happens either way. And frankly, the best way to protect people is to help them understand what's safe, what's not safe, what's legal, what's not legal, and to give them practice with making those kinds of choices, which is really the most protective thing.
Good point. And one last question. Can you comment on approaches for individuals who have more severe intellectual or communication disabilities who rely on their supporters to make decisions on their behalf? Does SDM and power of attorney continue to be the least restrictive option?
So supported decision-making is always less restrictive. It's less restrictive even than a power of attorney and much less restrictive than conservatorship, but it looks different for different people. And some folks use supported decision-making in formal ways, like Marie, we have like you have a written supported decision-making agreement that I've signed as a supporter and a lot of other supporters have signed.
Yep.
And some people don't do that. And they're including people who who don't speak to communicate or don't use AAC like consistently or formally. And then it looks different and it depends on the types of encounters people are having. But really, you know, everyone has preferences and everyone's preferences can be gleaned at least to some degree by people close to them. And so even if supported decision-making is within a conservatorship, if somebody is in a conservatorship or has some other sort of restrictive setting that they're in, you can and should still use supported decision-making, which is basically reflecting and implementing the person's preferences as to the extent that you can identify them and to the extent that they're not, you know, imminently dangerous. And I think that is a really important just guiding principle of working with folks with disabilities generally, is that people show what they like and what they don't like, even people with very significant disabilities and very limited formal communication, and respecting those and implementing those can itself be a form of supported decision-making.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise today.
Thank you so much. Really great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.